Cheers. Today we're going to be exploring what should you be doing, what should you be thinking about after you've completed a really long project, something that you were working on, a goal you were trying to accomplish, and you finally did it. You finally accomplished your goal. It might have been a creative project or a work project, but whatever it was, it took a lot. It took a lot of your spirit, it took a lot of your energy, it took a lot of your focus and your time. And before you move on to the next one, you want to make sure you learned everything. You want to make sure you take those lessons from this last project and bring it to the next. And if you're like me, you probably feel this itch to immediately jump into the next thing, to go to the next distraction, chase the next tennis ball. And I'm going to challenge you to say stop, wait a minute, and prioritize a few things before you do that. The first thing I think you should prioritize is your health and well-being. You need to be physically grounded before you move on to another hectic, chaotic project in your life. Number two, you need to properly reflect on everything you learned. If you move from one project to the next and you don't take the time to really sit with the lessons you've learned, you'll forget them. You'll forget them because your mind is so busy on the next thing, it never actually sat with and processed the thing you just completed. And then lastly, you shouldn't jump into the next thing until you've really had the time to answer the right questions about what should I be doing next? Why should I be doing it? Does it further my ultimate goals in life? Does it align with my values? So why don't we go into detail on these three, shall we? So the first one, getting yourself grounded again physically. If anyone knows how important it is to prioritize physical rest, it's the people who push their bodies the hardest. It's professional athletes. Nobody takes rest more serious than professional athletes. Whether that be sleep or laying horizontal after being on their feet for long periods of time, letting their muscles relax, or my personal favorite, heat and cold therapy. And so what I did after this huge convention, which concluded at the world's largest board game convention in Germany, I flew to Estonia with my fiance, and we spent about 4 or 5 days on this beautiful river in this gorgeous cabin that we got on Airbnb. And we did heat therapy, we did sauna sessions. The cabin had a sauna in it. And then we did some jacuzzis, so some more heat therapy there. And then lastly, we jumped into the cold river. The river was freezing. It was super cold. And that every day for 4 or 5 days, plus finally eating more than 2 or 3 meals, because during the convention, I'd be lucky if I ate a meal because I was just go the whole time. And then in the weeks before it, I was just so stressed out that I wasn't working out enough because I was overworking and I wasn't getting enough sleep. During a 2-week period in October, I slept 3 to 5 hours at most per night, which might be normal for you guys, but for me, not normal. And I was eating 1 meal a day. And so it was really important to get my body healed. And because I hyper-focused on it over a short period of time, I was able to actually recover really fast. And it was perfectly aligned with our anniversary. So it was just everything worked out. And I planned for that. So that was really awesome for those two things to be able to benefit from each other. Because then I got to just focus on the present with my fiance. And yeah, life was good and life is great. And then I was physically ready. I was back home in Thailand. I was feeling good. And once I got settled, I unpacked and everything like that, I was ready to do the next step, which is to recollect on everything. And this part of the video might be a little bit longer because I want to tell you about this really cool process that I used with ChatGPT. If anyone knows me, they know I love to use technology to help me be more introspective. I love how technology can help you become a better person. I don't think enough people focus on that these days. So if you don't care about this, you can skip to the next section. There'll be a timestamp below. But if you're curious on how I did it, I'll go into detail right now. So what I did was I wanted to really thoroughly understand what were the lessons learned from this huge project that took months of planning, preparation, and it was a lot. What were the lessons learned? What were the mistakes I made? What were things I should avoid for the project next year? What were some industry trends I noticed? What were some alternative approaches or strategies I saw to things from other companies? What was some advice customers gave, feedback, complaints, the whole thing? There was a running list of a lot of things to process. And now that I was like physically and like still and healthy, what I did was I came out here on the paddleboard because I don't think anywhere better in the world than I do right here. This is my favorite office on planet Earth. And so I asked ChatGPT to develop a list of introspective questions that is great for someone to answer if they were in charge of a project that involved all this logistic stuff, this creative stuff, blah, blah, blah. It was for a convention. I gave very specific nuanced details. And if you ever do this, I encourage you to be very specific with it. If you want to ask in the comments how I would go about a prompt for your particular project analysis, I'm happy to give it an example. But mine ended up being like 10 minutes worth of me talking about what I want to look out for, what were the biggest parts and categories and subcategories of this particular project that mattered to me. It was very specific to everything I cared about. I don't think you can really do, of course you can get some general insights from like a general reflection, but I like to get specific. I'm a details guy. Not all the time, but on this, I was the details guy. So ChatGPT responded with about at least 50 questions. It felt like at least 50. I copied those, I pasted them on my Apple Notes on my iPhone, and then I came out here on the iPad, on the paddleboard. I'm on a giant iPad. And I had my iPhone. I would look at a question, and then I'd put my phone away, and I would record with voice recording my answer. The questions would be things like, what were some of the criticisms customers gave that we can improve on as a company? And I would look at that question, I would answer it, and I ended up talking so long. Oh my gosh, much more talking than I can do writing. And I learned that a while ago with voice transcription. I can do so much more information when I talk versus when I type. I'm not a confident typer. So I ended up talking for, I think, 108 minutes or something. I answered each question thoroughly, like in detail. Some I was short on, some I went long on, and I was scattered all over the place, but I was thorough. I was just like zooming in on every single question. And when I finished that, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder, a weight of information that I've been sitting with this whole time. And if you move on from a project, that's just gonna leave you. Or you're just gonna forget it. And what's so cool is I now had this giant MP3 full of me talking that I can get transcribed. I just used Apple's voice memo transcription that came out with the new software. And I copy and pasted the transcription into ChatGPT. I re-explained hey, this is what I did. I based these off some questions. Now it's your job to formulate it or format it and paraphrase and condense on the more rambling stuff and break out the most detailed conclusions, the analysis I did, summarize of things, help me understand the main points, break it up into good sections, stuff like that. That's what I ended up doing. And man, it was fantastic. It gave me this 10-page long document. I ended up needing to go through the document and make a lot of edits. Not a lot, but like a good amount of edits to it. It wasn't perfect. But then what I ended up doing is just fed my finished edits back to GPT, and I said, hey, I made some changes based on the original work you did because I think you missed some details on XYZ, and I also think you paraphrased this, which you did incorrectly. You should have said this. I gave it feedback and notes basically on everything you did, and then I gave it an example of what I want it to look like. And what's awesome is the next time I go through this process with it, it knows what I want something to look like, and I have this formulated process I can go through, this method to analyze these trips and my experience and everything like that. these projects and my experience with them and my lessons. And I feel so relieved. I feel like, wow, I put so much down on something. I'm sharing it with the team now, and I feel really ready for the next time this project happens. I feel like I have this like blueprint to success that was built off the lessons from this one. And I encourage you to do this at the end of every big project you worked on, because if you just move on immediately, you're gonna let the course of time just take a lot of lessons learned. And then lastly, once you've really thoroughly gone through all the lessons learned and you feel you're ready physically, you feel healthy, you feel grounded, then you can do the next thing, the thing that you're itching to do the whole time, which is, what's next? What do I do next? And I don't know what to do next for me personally. I have, of course, a lot of priorities with all these different projects and businesses, but almost everything's light work. That's the way I've set up all my businesses. It was really important for me to design a life where I can focus on a big thing every now and then, and everything else is easy to do on a set schedule. Every morning I take care of some customer service for the business. Every Thursday I have a meeting. Like it's all set up in a way to allow me to go from project to project, which is how I love to live and work, but still be able to get everything done on a day-to-day basis, regardless of if there's a big project or not. So I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm gonna be asking myself some questions like, based on everything I learned from this last project, what are there any changes in my values or my large life goals that I should consider? Are there any things I've learned that I should consider? Do I still want to keep track on my larger goals? How do I feel about those? Should I make some adjustments? Yada, yada. And I think for you, you should ask your own variant, your own version of these types of questions. But for me, it's about really zooming out, looking at the big picture before I start considering like, what's that next big project? That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to zoom out, look at my life as a whole, and think about the next year. I like to start my yearly reflections around November anytime. I think December is not enough time to really think about a last year. So I'm gonna start thinking about 2024 as a whole. I'm gonna start planning for 2025 as a whole and life in general. So I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.